session will be a continuation of the learning outcome session we had yesterday. Our resource person is Dr. Edamanna Prasad, who's a professor in the Department of Chemistry in IIT Chennai. The professor is also a co-member of the Teaching Learning Center at IIT Chennai. May I invite you, sir, to begin?
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for the delay of 5 minutes. There's some technical problem. Welcome to the session. We are continuing our discussion on learning outcomes, the design aspects, and also some calculation aspect of outcomes. Yesterday, I was going through your feedback. So one couple of requests was for giving more examples. So I tried to incorporate a few examples today, but as a general teaching strategy in TLC, we strongly recommend that when you're teaching concepts, don't give the examples first. That can be slightly shocking to many teachers because many of us think that giving example is the best way of teaching. Well, examples are good for understanding, no doubt about it. An example or analogy, you understand the concept in a bit more faster. But at the same time, there is a problem with the example. If you provide large number of examples in the beginning, applying these concepts, that part learners will struggle because you are basically, when you provide examples, you are not allowing them to think of applying whatever they understood. You are helping them, but hindering in a higher level of learning. So as a general teaching strategy, we suggest you can give examples, but later, not when you teach a concept. You ask them to apply, allow them to make mistakes, and then correct it. This could be a better teaching strategy than providing example in the beginning. So we'll come to these details when we go to a session called active learning. So now, in continuation with yesterday, I'm going to share the slides where you can, hope you are able to see the slides now.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So just quickly the glimpses. We discussed about design steps for an outcome. And step one was write the cognitive action you expect your students to do. And step two, indicate the cognitive load required to do the action using a taxonomy. So these were the essential things that we did yesterday, and many of you tried, many of you were successful. A few ideas for using this learning outcome effectively are listed in this slide. It is very important that you should share learning outcome with your students before the course starts. So right now, I think it's a practice that every website, every course, they list the outcomes. At least in Kerala, I am sure this engineering, there is a technical university, they put the learning outcomes along with the syllabus. So even though there are some some places more properly defined outcomes are required, at least they started doing this. So as a practice, if other universities also follow, putting the learning outcomes up front, that's very important. You can use learning outcomes in preparing your lectures. So once you use a set of learning outcomes from the syllabus, then you can plan your lecture around the learning outcomes. Use learning outcomes in composing exams. So when you prepare a test, keep your learning outcome besides you, because you are now testing whether the outcomes are achieved or not. So look at the outcomes and then prepare a question. That will be a bit more organized way of developing exam questions. You can also monitor students' development with respect to cognitive actions in applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating levels. So you target a level and then see how student is performing a cognitive action with respect to that level. The last one is, it's a bit drastic statement, but I would suggest that once you develop a set of outcomes, don't look back to the syllabus. If you go by syllabus and covering the portion, you will fall back to the traditional way of teaching. You use the syllabus to develop a set of outcomes. That means the essence of the syllabus is now reflecting in the syllabus, in the outcomes. And once you have a set of outcomes, then no need for going back to the syllabus. Then you look around, you work around the outcomes and then prepare the learners to reach the outcomes. There are some disturbance. I'm just waiting.
Dear participants, please mute your microphones. Please cooperate.
Okay. All right. So these are some ideas for using this learning outcome in an effective fashion. And when you share outcome with your students, a couple of aspects that every teacher can follow. Take 5 minutes of your first class to speak about Bloom's taxonomy or any taxonomy that you are going to use. This will help the students to get put things in perspective or understand the concept or the context. Why you are using all these fancy words and why you are talking about levels and all. They will get an idea if you spare 5 minutes of your first class saying that learning means what. Cognitive learning means what? There are levels of thinking, and in this course, these levels are targeted. These levels means this. So these things you can quickly share with your students so that they'll be in the context, they'll be on the same page. Share specific learning outcome for each lecture. So then it help the students to see how learning outcomes can be used for preparing a lecture. So they will connect whatever you are telling and what is the expected outcome. So they can correlate with those things and make more sense out of the lecture. Share specific learning outcome for each upcoming exam. So this I use and I have seen myself that it makes a lot of difference. For example, before quiz 1 for the first test, you show these are the outcome that we expect. Do the test. After the test, when you discuss your question paper answer scripts, you again show these outcomes. So when you do that, it helps them see how to use learning outcome to prepare for an exam. Quiz 1, they may not give much seriousness, but then after when you show the outcomes after the exam, they will immediately connect, oh, this question actually corresponds to this outcome. And if you can do the same exercise for the next exam, obviously they will pay more attention to the outcomes. So this is a practice that teachers can use in every class, every exam. Before the exam and after the exam, you just show the slide with outcomes. Provide students feedback on progress with respect to the outcomes. So generally, when you give the feedback to the students, some kind of when you assess their feedback and provide the assessment to them, tell that with respect to this particular outcome, you are standing here. Instead of the general statement saying that, you did not understand this concept clearly. This kind of a feedback when teacher give, it actually doesn't help. As we said yesterday, this word understand can have a lot of confusing aspects. So instead of telling that way, it is better practice for the teacher to tell with respect to this outcome, you are standing here. These are the problems that you make when you approach this outcome. These are the things probably you need to pay more attention. So in terms of outcomes, if you can discuss, that will help the students in their preparation. Okay, now I will request you to take your pen and paper. There is a small exercise for you. It's a warm-up exercise. We're just beginning the second day session. I want you to write a set of criteria by which you can evaluate a set of learning outcomes. So I will explain it one more time. Assume that you are given a set of learning outcomes. It can be your own course or somebody else's course. A set of outcomes are given to you. And somebody is asking you, how are you going to evaluate whether this design aspect of the outcomes are proper or not? So your job is to verify whether the outcome statements designed are properly designed or not. So you need to evaluate the outcomes. So what kind of criteria would you design to verify the given set of outcomes are properly designed or not? I want you to think about it and then use the chat box. We'll see the kind of criteria you are planning to use to verify the design aspect of an outcome. If you need clarity on the question, you can come to the chat box. question is clarity needed. Yeah, the question is, suppose your friend has given you a set of learning outcomes that he or she, her course or his course. There may be 4 learning outcomes and asking you, can you verify these learning outcomes are properly designed or not? What do? You will sit with the learning outcome and then say that the first learning outcome is properly designed. Second learning outcome is not properly designed. Third learning outcome is properly designed. How do you arrive at this conclusion? You need a criteria. What criteria would you use? This is the question. Francis is giving analyzing the result. No, result, even course is not started. Course is not started. Your friend is requesting you to just see whether the design of the outcome is proper or not. So another answer is set the question paper based on the outcome. Yeah, but then outcome is properly designed or not? That is the question. So you cannot now start the question paper design. First we say whether the outcome is properly designed or not. First, Rega is saying first to go through the syllabus. That can be one criterion, saying that there should be a syllabus representation in the outcomes. Can the coordinator read the responses, please? Because it's going very fast. Okay, another one is, I'm just seeing a couple of them I missed.
Yeah, no problem. Shiri. Okay. Yes, sir. Jayesh is saying level of skill acquisition.
Level of?
Skill acquisition.
So that can be one criterion, in the sense in your learning outcome must contain the specific levels that you are targeting. That is true. That can be one criterion. What else is there?
Rennie George says asking questions and conducting MCQ level quiz or exam.
No. So Rennie, we are not discussing about how do you plan to execute the outcomes. The question now is, you have a set of learning outcome. First we verify whether the design aspects are proper or not. What criteria would you use for evaluating the design of the outcome given to you? That's the question. Another
Neeraja James says entrance test.
No. These are all, I think, faculty is thinking because they think these outcomes are going to be executed in the class, and then you are verifying whether the students are attaining the outcomes or not. That is the second stage. Right now, we need to test whether the design aspects are proper or not.
Sir, can we divide the portions according to the syllabus and identify the portions?
So that's what one's criterion
For
saying.
example,
that
in literature, we can classify it into poetry, fiction, and theory part. Thus, we can classify it and then make up.
So we can classify the syllabus, and correspondingly you can design the outcome. Now the question is, what criteria would you use to verify the design is proper or not? That is what we are trying to discuss.
Okay.
Dr. Animal VS says, need to understand basic concepts of the course is clear, and application in real life situations should be achieved.
Yeah, so these are all connection with the syllabus. See, some syllabus needs real life application, some syllabus doesn't need. It depends upon the syllabus. There should be a connection with the syllabus. I agree that. So that can be one criterion, but all of you are telling about the same criterion. Can you think about something else as a criteria?
Sarita K. Nair says, check whether outcomes are measurable.
Very good. That can be the first top one criterion that you can use to verify whether the outcome design is proper or not. See whether the outcomes are measurable. Number one. Other response?
Dr. K. Manjusha, can the outcomes be achieved in the given time span?
Yes, that can be also another criterion, because you have a limited time. Whether the outcome that you have designed is too much ambitious or not, you can always check. That can be another, yes.
Tina T. Elizabeth, look for observable or action words in the learning outcome.
Yes, that can be a criterion. Every outcome must contain an observable action word. Whether it is there or not can be the criteria to verify whether the outcome design is proper or not.
Dr. Sujata NV, describe only the outcomes, not processes or activities.
The second part was not audible. Describe the outcome and?
Not processes or activities.
Yeah, outcome statement is not meant for the methodology. Outcome statements generally contains only the final expected action. How you achieve is a different aspect that is important, but not necessarily come in the outcome statement.
Dr. Anisa PA, whether the questions are focused on the learner or not.
Again, questions means I think the Anifa is thinking that we are conducting an exam to verify whether the learning outcomes are achieved or not. That is not the context. We are just starting the course, not even yet started. Faculty just designed the outcome, and another person is basically verifying whether the outcomes are proper or not. For that verification, you need a set of criteria. Those criteria are we are discussing now. So you can see whether there is a one-on-one match with the syllabus. You can see whether there is observable action terms used. You can see whether the teacher is specifying the levels. All these things can be criteria for verifying. Any other response?
Dr. Neenamol Sebastian, contains action words, includes observable outcome.
Yes. So that can be one criteria to verify whether the outcomes are properly designed or not.
Next is a question, Gia Paul, can we correlate syllabus with outcome?
Yes, because you are now currently having a syllabus and you are now trying to communicate to the students, if you sit in my course and learn the syllabus, what are the expected learning? That is what means design of outcome. So the outcome that you design should have some correlation with the syllabus that you teach. It is reflecting. So it's like squeezing a fruit and taking the essence. So syllabus is your fruit, outcomes are the essence. You are trying in advance that this is what you are going to get finally.
Okay. Neeraja James, compare course outcomes with learning outcome.
We are coming to that. Today we are going to discuss that. So is it an answer for the question that we are discussing or is it
I don't understand what she means.
Because
is Neeraja James here? Neeraja James? Shall I move on to next question?
Yeah, if Neeraja has come.
Yes, ma'am, it's answer to the question right now.
Hello?
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear?
Yes, please repeat.
Yeah, it's the answer to the question what sir asked.
Oh, okay. So then, so in the outcomes, you are saying that there should be a relation between CO and PO. But usually CO-PO relation may not be reflecting in the outcome statements. So that's the job that teachers do for accreditation business. No need for students to know those things. Students are looking to know in the course that they are enrolled, what is the teacher want them to do? This is what basically we are trying to tell them through outcomes. So the relation between how that is catering to the program outcome and all are important, but may not be reflecting in the outcome statements. So that may not be a criteria for evaluating the design of outcome.
Dr. S. Mohan, whether the outcomes are observable or not.
Yes, that can be a criteria.
Soumya AP, check if the design has the action word which indicates cognitive performance.
Exactly. The most important criteria.
Joseph Prince, observable verb should be there in the learning outcome.
Yeah. So see, once we design this set of criteria that you are telling, you can use it for yourself. When you design outcomes, use this set of criteria to verify whether your outcomes are proper or not. That is advantage. Any other response?
Shruti Francis, through action verbs.
Yes.
Dr. Biju Thomas, how can the questions be framed which bring out various knowledge levels as per Bloom's taxonomy?
So once you design a proper outcome, the outcome statement itself will help you to design the question. Because if the outcome is solve problems based on this theory, well, then the question is very clear. You have to design a question and the students are going to solve that problem using a theory. So that's the advantage of properly designing an outcome. You are basically setting the exam question and the level. So if you pay attention to the outcome design, your exam questions preparation will be much easy.
Okay, Lakshmi Salim, application of the course in daily life.
So that can be a criterion if the course is required or demanding that kind of exercise. All courses may not be. So it's a specific case.
Tulasi AR, firstly asking easy question about their awareness.
I think Tulasi is talking about verifying the outcomes through exams. But that was not the question. The question is verifying the design of the outcome itself.
Sarita PK, feasibility study.
Feasibility, yeah, whether this can be achieved in the given time or with a set of students, all those things can be some guidelines before we prepare the outcomes. As I said, it cannot be too ambitious. If it is not achievable within that time frame, there is no point in giving those outcomes in the syllabus.
Okay, Dr. Sheenaja, use of action verb and Bloom's taxonomy we can clarify.
Yeah, that we already discussed. That is perfect criteria.
Another one is by sample outcome measure.
Sample outcome?
Sample outcome measure. I don't know who the
that is not
sender
clear.
is. It is from admin at Cochin College. Somebody from Cochin College. By sample outcome measure. I can see only the email link. So
okay. Yeah, sample outcome measure means what? If they can explain through chat box, that we can address that. Next one.
Can you please respond? Okay, we'll move to the next one. Dr. Anisa, whether the questions are focused on the learner or not.
Again,
hello, sir.
Questions? Yeah.
Sir, I'm Vijesh from Cochin College.
Okay, Vijesh.
A sample outcome, I mean, during the formation of this syllabus, we can try to implement that to a small group of students in our class, and whether such an outcome can be obtained. So that is what I meant by that statement.
I see. So that means you are talking about the implementation stage of the outcome statement.
Yeah, before implementing that to a large group of large community, we can implement that to a small group.
Oh, okay, I got it. But even that is not what is intended in the question. The question is in the design level of the outcome to check whether the design is proper. So without even implementing anything, the course is not even started in small group or large group. You're not even, because it's very important that when you implement, the design has to be proper.
Okay.
We don't want even for a small group to go with the wrong outcome or poorly designed outcome. So let us make sure that the outcome design is proper and then implement it.
Okay.
So Dr. Anisa again, whether the questions are focused on the learner or not.
I think, yeah, Anifa is also thinking about question preparation. Question preparation obviously connected with outcomes, but when you check the design aspects of the outcomes, don't have to worry about the questions right now, assessment. But we said just see that the criteria that you can use, such as whether it is representing syllabus, whether it's an action word, whether the cognitive levels are mentioned. These are the important things that teachers look for. Any other?
A few more are there. Okay. Erika Roy, what will be the achievement of students if they have achieved the outcome? The question.
Think about the achievement of students, right? If they have achieved the outcome. Yeah, but again, when you specify a criteria, we also need to tell the criteria in a proper fashion so that they can always use it. For example, they can identify whether an action verb is not. So when you say think about the achievement of students, what exactly you mean is missing. What action you want the faculty to do when they verify the outcome design is proper or not is missing in your response. What else?
Manjula KA, should have clarity and well written.
Yes, that can be. Yeah, clarity aspect should be there for the design. Yes.
Dr. Srikala MS, can we evaluate the outcome based on students' ability?
Well, finally, students' ability is going to be reflected in the outcomes. That is, eventually that's going to happen. But when you design, see, you are designing outcome for the course. Please remember that outcomes are course specific. it has no connection with the students or faculty at the design stage. You are designing it for a course. Basically, you are telling that if anybody sit in this course, this is what the institute or the teacher is expected to learn through by the students. This is only an expectation. Okay. So at this time, students' ability is not coming to the picture. Otherwise, you need to keep on changing the outcome based on the student's ability. That is not a practical solution. You design outcome for the course. Now the entire semester is an attempt to make every student to reach the outcome. In that process, you may be really successful, partially successful, that depends. But when you write your expectation, it is no need to consider the student's ability at this point. Any other
Dr. Jayakrishnan, learning outcomes should be measurable, applicable, and transferable.
Transferable. That part I am not getting properly, but measurable, yes, of course. That can be one criteria.
Dr. Mary Sapna Peter, check whether it matches the taxonomy, also if focused and structured.
Yeah. So all those things are nice points for using as a criteria.
Asha Prabhakaran, assessing learner readiness.
Not clear by that.
Should we ask her, Asha Prabhakaran?
Yeah, if Asha Prabhakaran can explain what you mean by assessing learner readiness. And how do you expect that reflect in the outcome statement?
Hello, Asha Prabhakaran.
Well, sir, I think you have already. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
I think you have already explained that. You had already stated that during the outcome design, students, we are not talking about the students.
Oh, that was the aspect that you were mentioning. Yeah. So the design aspect, there are no students in front of you. There are no other constraints. You are only looking at the course, and say that anybody who sits potentially can achieve these outcomes. That is what we are basically telling in the outcome statement. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Shall we stop or move on?
How many are there?
I think 2 or 3. Three messages are there.
Yeah, just read the 3 also. Yeah, then we can stop.
Not 3, much more are coming.
Okay, we'll take it's useful for everybody else.
Okay, so Sarita K. Nair says students should be able to understand the outcomes.
Yeah, if you use the cognitive action terms, which are essentially calculate, solve, correlate, compare, these are all simple English words. So I think it will bring much more clarity what a teacher is expecting the students to do. So that's why we always say that it can be an action word. These cognitive action words are easy to understand.
Sarita PK says it should be realistic.
Yeah, realistic in the sense probably the time constraint and other aspects. Over ambitious outcomes should not be. Yeah, that can be criteria.
Dr. Ambali Nath, appropriate assessment task.
So appropriate assessment means if you use the criterion that there should be an observable action word, don't worry about assessment plan. If there is an observable action term, you can develop an assessment plan. Anything which is observable can be assessed. So don't worry about assessment plan. Assessment plan is very important. You need to make an assessment plan, but first you ensure that these action terms are observable. Then you can develop an assessment plan. It is taken care of.
Erika Roy, think about the achievement of students if they have achieved the outcome given.
Check if the student has achieved. No, that's what. So I think Nisha or Nishida? Erika. So Erika is thinking that probably this is about student achievement of the outcome. That is not what we are discussing. We are discussing whether the design of outcome is proper or not. Next.
Dr. Ambali Nath, Identify important learning requirements, type of knowledge, skills, and values required.
Only after identifying those things, a faculty design outcomes. So there are prerequisites for designing outcomes, but once you design outcome, our worry is whether the design aspect is proper or not. How do we test it? How do we verify whether the design is proper? That's what we are trying to do.
CGAJ, check the prerequisites of goals and the targets to be achieved.
Prerequisite is important. Prerequisite is important, but prerequisite is not the way. Using prerequisite, there is no need for developing an outcome. Outcome is what they will be able to do after learning that course. So before you start teaching, it is important to verify the prerequisites are met or not. But your outcome statement may not reflect the prerequisites. Outcome statement for this new course.
Sharanya
Okay.
PS, analyze whether the learning outcomes are achievable by the students.
That's what, Sharanya, that's not what we are discussing. You are thinking that how to verify the achievement of learning outcome. We are not discussing that aspect. The course is not even started. We are trying to verify the design of outcome is proper or not. What way we can verify, what set of criteria we can use.
Rajesh E, whether outcome contains measures for analysis.
Yeah, that is all. So it should be measurable. That's all.
Dr. Nisha Thomji Varghese, we can check if the student has achieved the outcomes of a course by using specific assessment tools.
Nisha's statement is correct, but that is not what we are discussing now. We are discussing about how do we verify whether the design of an outcome is properly designed or not. So what kind of criteria, what kind of guideline I can use to verify the outcome design is proper. So to summarize this discussion, a few criteria that we can use to verify the design outcome is proper is check whether there is an action word. Point number 1. Point number 2, check the action word is measurable or observable. Third one, see whether any taxonomy is mentioned. That is important. Which level of thinking are getting targeted. And fourth one, see whether it is achievable, realistic, time constraint, all those things are taken into consideration. Fifth one can be, there can be a connection with the syllabus. So these are all the essential criteria a faculty can use to verify whether the design is proper. Now we'll go back to the slides again. Okay, because teachers ask examples. Here is one example from an IIT faculty. Teacher's name is Dr. Indumati Nambi. Environmental engineering is the course. Learning outcomes are given. Define water and wastewater quality parameters and list the permissible limits set for each of them. Identify the appropriate treatment technology for water and wastewater based on the quality of inlet water. To design water treatment and wastewater treatment units. So these are the targeted outcomes in her course for an undergraduate program. Well, you see an entirely different way of outcomes here. Another example from Dr. Arun Menon. He is a faculty in civil engineering department. This is a course for BTech, an elective course. Now you can see that for every topic in the syllabus, he come up with 3 or 4 outcomes.
You are right. Yeah.
Hello, please mute your microphone. Dear participants, all of you, please mute.
So this is another way of writing learning outcomes, where you can actually elaborate on every topic or every class. These are the expected action. Introductory lecture, he wants to list historical and modern masonry material, to list relevant codes, to define structural functional design requirement. So you can, some faculty wants that much detailed way of communicating, but some other faculty prefers to tell in overall. That is left to the faculty. There is no prescription here. But only thing is that it has to communicate what exactly you want them to do. That is the only thing to take care of. I just want to share my experience also. I joined in IIT Madras 2006, and the first training I got about the outcome was in 2009. So 3 years I was teaching before any LO was introduced. I was not aware of this concept at all, and I was still teaching. It is still possible to teach without the awareness of outcomes. So before LO was introduced, I never asked this question. What do I want my students to learn in my course? This question never popped up in my mind. I was focusing on what should I teach. And for me, a good teacher is one who provides very good explanations. This was my concept about a good teacher. That means come to the students' level, give very simple explanations so that they get the idea. These are the concepts of a good teacher at that time. And I was never actually clear in my mind what is the expected learning. So when I design a question, I randomly pick up questions and then pose it from the syllabus. Because I was not aware about the levels of thinking, I was not aware about the cognitive actions. So questions were random. There was not an expected learning from the syllabus. After LO was introduced, it actually forced me to think about expected learning from a syllabus before I step into the class. For each topic, if I teach it, what is that I expect back from them? This question automatically pops up in my mind. It helped me to plan assessment in advance. So I can think even before the course starts, I can develop an assessment plan. I can even write the exam paper, prepare the exam paper, because I know these are the things that I'm expecting. Expectation is clear now. It helped me significantly in designing in-class activities. We will elaborate this point in the next session, active learning class. But essentially it means that once I design a set of outcomes, then I am able to design cognitive activities which actually help the students to reach that outcome. This is an example of LOs from my elective course. At the end of the course, the students will be able to explain Marcus theory of electron transfer reactions, understanding level, calculate electron and energy transfer rate constant for excited state process, apply and analyze level. Some calculations are apply level, some calculation demands analytical thinking. Calculate energy transfer efficiency between donor acceptor systems. These are based on kind of equations. So that means it's an apply level cognitive load. Derive electron and energy transfer kinetics in the excited state. That is an analytical level of cognitive action. So you can see that I targeted, understand, apply, analyze these 3 levels in my course. So that means that no need for targeting all the 6 levels. At the same time, nothing wrong if you target all the 6 levels. So these are the flexibility left to the institute, left to the university, left to the individual faculty, depend upon the context for using learning outcomes. In this particular course, there are no expected outcome in the remember level, which means I am not supposed to ask any question based on memory. Suppose that means I normally give all the values of the constants. In chemistry, they use a lot of constants, but I don't want them to memorize it. I will provide those values in the question paper itself. So if you are not targeting any remember level cognitive load, you need to provide all the data that they require to use it. So don't ask them to memorize it if you are not targeting that. So it's very important that when you design the question paper, which levels are targeted, and if you are not targeting remembering and understanding levels in that course or in that topic, provide the data. That is very important. Okay, now we are coming to the terminologies. This is essentially for accreditation business. So I think different colleges are at different stages. Accreditation is a iterative process. It will not go in one shot. So I know that you are in different levels of this progress, but let us discuss a few aspects. In between, we'll stop and then we'll discuss. The terminology, let us get the jargons, let us get the wordings properly. if you look at the NBA or NAC accreditation, you may see the terminology CO, PO, PEO, PSO. You rarely see LO. LO is learning outcome, the one that we discussed. CO means course outcome, PO means program outcome, PEO means program educational outcome, PSO means program specific outcome. These are the terminologies. So why we discussed about LO is, LO has this flexibility, as you can see the example of an IIT faculty where he goes topic by topic. That flexibility is given to the faculty if he or she wants. LO is the one that is best suiting. You can go by topic by topic. But if you are using CO, course outcomes, generally people use 4 to 5 course outcomes for a course. So going by topic and stating the outcomes, course outcome is not a good practice. We can use learning outcome. But learning outcome and course outcomes are heavily connected. We will go to a slide where we exclusively discuss the connection between LO and CO. You are seeing another acronym, GA. It's called graduate attributes, which means the skills, knowledge, skills, attitudes that you expect your learners to have in any graduate program. They are very general. In any undergraduate program, irrespective of the branch, whether it is BA English or BA Psychology or BA Literature, whatever it is, or BSc Mathematics, BSc Chemistry, BSc Physics, irrespective of the program, if it is irrespective of the branch, if you expect some common attributes to any graduate program, that is called graduate attributes. So these agencies who are doing this accreditation they have already published what are the graduate attributes expected. So there are 11 or 12 different graduate attributes that is expected for every graduate through every graduate program. So that doesn't matter which undergraduate program you are running, doesn't matter which postgraduate program you are running, there are certain graduate attributes that is common. So these program outcomes that you are proposing, it should contain these graduate attributes. Automatically it will be a part of your program. This is general. Apart from this general program expectation, outcome expectation, there are two other things. One is PEO and PSO. Some of these graduate attributes, relevant graduate attributes, are expected to be valid even after the learners complete the course and leave the institute. They are called PEO, program educational outcomes. Education means that's a long-standing connotation is there. So PEO is a category where you tell the expectation of learning even after they complete the course and leave. Okay, and PSO is program specific outcome, which contains all the graduate attributes will be there. In addition to the graduate attributes, any specific knowledge and skill that is coming through your program. So anything specific to the, for example, BSc Chemistry, what essentially they are learning from that program, in addition to the graduate attributes, that should come as PSO. So I think faculty should work on PSO. In your colleges, every branch you are working, you need to write a set of PSOs. POs are automatically, it's already given you as graduate attributes. And PEO is very easy. You can select some of these relevant GAs and write your PEOs. But PSO you have to design because that is specific to your program. These PSOs are written based on the COs. That means you have several courses. Every course is having an expected outcome. When you meet these specific course outcomes, what kind of program specific outcomes you can achieve? You need to think in that terms and then write the program specific outcomes. So these are the terminologies, and let us quickly see the connection between learning outcome and course outcome. This question was asked yesterday. As I want to state that they are very much connected. Let us leave that learning or course. Let us discuss about outcomes. As you know, outcomes describe specific expectation on learners' knowledge, skill, and attitude. This is what we are trying to communicate. You can specify the learning outcome after completing a module, unit, topic, as you have seen in example. Teachers can also club 2 or more LOs and present it as one course learning outcome or course outcome. So I will give you an example at this point because it is getting cluttered. Here is an example. Yellow 1, draw pressure volume relation in ideal gas. Yellow 2, solve problems based on ideal gas relation. Now these two yellows are actually coming in an apply level job. So suppose you want to present as a course outcome, you can combine these two things and say students will be able to apply ideal gas law in specified context. So now I have actually included the different yellows in one course outcome statement. So in this context, you can see yellow as a subset of CO. This is one way of looking at it. Suppose I'm giving another example. Suppose you have only one yellow in the above example, yellow 1. That is only a yellow in that particular topic, draw pressure volume relation. Then your CO and yellow become same. There is no difference. You can use that yellow as CO, draw pressure volume relation. That's why I said yellow and CO are intimately connected. But suppose you have several yellows in the same level, then you can club them and put it as one CO. So it's just a technology or a tool to represent or encompass an ensemble of yellows in one statement. So course outcome or course learning outcome statement can be embedded with several learning outcome statements. If there is only one yellow in that level, that itself is sound like a course outcomes. There is no difference then. This is the relation between learning outcome and course outcome. It is heavily connected. So you can suppose you have only one learning outcome in a level, that learning outcome is your course outcome. But only cases where you have like Dr. Arun Menon, so he listed several outcomes for one topic, but that many course outcomes you cannot list. So you can make them, club them. That is the idea of a course outcome. So this is the difference, slight difference between learning outcome and course outcome. Course outcome and program outcome. So course learning outcomes describe specific expectation on learners' knowledge, skill, ability, and attitude after completing a course. The same expectations after completing a program is called program outcome or program specific outcome. So these are all specific expectations on students' achievement after completing a particular program. For example, an undergraduate program, electrical engineering of BTech. That can be an undergraduate program, educational program. And what the students are achieved specifically by attending this program is called PSO of that program. And PO of that program is applicable to all BTechs. PO is general. PSO is specific to electrical engineering. So like that, if you have BA English, MA Economics, you have to have specific PSOs. PSO is connected to your branch. Okay. So now I want you to think one PSO for your educational program. If you have questions also between the connections, you can use chat box. But finally, let us come up with one example of PSO from your program. Tell the program and write the PSO. You can also ask the connection between the outcomes are not clear. You can also ask any other questions. Sarita, I see Sarita is asking BCom, is it right? Can you explain, Sarita, what is meant by that question? BCom is, you can write PSO for BCom. Yeah, that is we need program specific outcome for BCom. BCom that's a specific BSc zoology to develop scientific temper among students. To develop scientific temper. So one thing that probably you can keep in mind is these outcomes, like the design that we discussed about learning outcome or course outcomes, try to make sure that this is observable. So developing scientific temper can be observed if there is a situation whether the person is thinking scientifically or not. So to that aspect, there is an observability. So we can consider it as a PSO. What else? LLB, some courses are coming, biochemistry. But what is the PSO? Okay. Model.
There is one. Shall I read it out, sir?
Yeah, please.
Sharanya PS, BVOC Broadcasting and Journalism. Students should be able to publish a newspaper, should be able to create radio or TV program, etc.
Okay, so one another aspect is when you say publish an article in a newspaper, or publish a newspaper.
Publish, I think she means
in a newspaper. Probably that
Hello,
is.
Hello, Sharanya PS, please explain. Hello, Sharanya. I think she meant publishing an article.
Hello.
Next one.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sir, I meant they should be able to publish a newspaper of their own.
Yeah, so we need to see whether these outcomes can be achieved, or these outcomes are making sense of something which a large number of the students in the class can be achieved through that program. So do you think that every student or 80% of the students in the class will be able to do this job or not? That is also another thing that, when we discussed about designing outcome, we said that it has to be realistic or it has to be achievable to a large extent. Publishing an article in a newspaper can be achieved, but publish a newspaper itself is a tremendous, it requires a lot of.
In the course, we will be teaching, training them to work in all fields related to the print media publishing or video production.
Okay.
So after that, they will be able to create their own newspaper. That's what I meant.
I see. Okay. So yeah, I mean, probably so another way of telling is they develop in-depth knowledge in creating how to publish a paper. So they may not be able to actually, so you are actually focusing on the cognitive part of your publishing aspects.
Okay.
Right? You are not actually discussing about the other aspects. So it may be better to focus on that level of thinking and say that the program specific outcome, if you undergo this kind of a program, we are enabling this kind of a skill, and they acquire in-depth knowledge, they develop in-depth knowledge regarding publishing a newspaper.
Okay, sir.
All right. Another one.
And one teacher from St. Thomas College, BSc Zoology program, to enable students know the need of biodiversity.
No, so to enable students is again a teaching objective. It's nothing to do with the learning. We need to tell what students are supposed to do. And when you say program specific outcome, see, remember, it is a program as such. You need to consider all the courses, right? So it's not about one course. They are learning several courses. There will be 15-20 courses in a graduate, postgraduate program, or maybe more courses in an undergraduate program. So when they learn all these courses, what kind of skill level, what kind of knowledge thing that you are expecting them to do? That is called program specific outcome is trying to tell. So it is enabling is a language that we tell this is our wish. But in outcome statement, we should always tell what students are supposed to do. Another one.
Dr. Nirmal Casey, Zoology, identify, classify animals.
That looks like more like a course outcome than a program outcome. Program outcome, so you need to consider all the courses that you are plotting in that program. And then combinedly, what are the things that is coming out as a result of accumulation or assimilation of all the things in the courses plotted for that program? What kind of knowledge and skill set that you are expecting for students? That is called program specific outcomes.
Leena Kecherian, BCom Finance and Taxation. Outcome is filing tax returns.
File tax returns. Yeah, file tax returns can even be a course outcome. So in that tax aspects that you are teaching through several courses, as a result of the student attending several courses for regarding tax, can you think of deriving something which is more general or more kind of touching upon several course aspects to derive the program outcome? So I want teachers to actually consider not only her course or his course. So this is the difficulty that teachers normally face when they write the PSO. They are aware of the course that they are teaching, but that awareness is not sufficient for the person to design PSO. To design PSO, you need to know all the courses that is floating in that program. And when the student learn many courses, what are the skill sets that the student is supposed to develop? Yeah.
Excuse me, please mute your microphone. Next question is Dr. Anisa PA. Procuring hands-on real-time experience in industries in life science.
Okay. So students will be having hands-on experience required for industry. So then in such case of a program specific outcome, ensure that there are several courses which prepare them for that. So this is the advantage. So there should be some what you call one-on-one relation between course outcome and program outcome. When you say there is a program specific outcome, which says that students will be ready for doing industrial job, ensure that there are several courses which prepare them for that. Yes. Next.
Dr. Sujata NV, Physics. Design, construct and analyze basic electronic and digital circuits.
Yeah. So that can be one program specific outcome, because there can be several kind of circuits, and generally the teacher is saying that they develop the skill of developing circuits. Yes. You can even pick up some representative examples considering the time constraint.
Yes, yes. Dr. Minimol Casey, describe the usefulness of animals. Zoology.
Describe the usefulness of animals. I think can still work on it. See, all these outcome statements, please understand that in one shot it may not be appropriate. You need to sit, relax, think a lot. So this exercise has to be iterative. Even if you don't get it in one shot, don't get disappointed. Go back and then verify again and again. You consider all the courses. Are they talking about several animals? And then this is what the outcome that you expect. You ask yourself. I think you can still, there's a room for improvement. Another one.
Hiki Devadas, to develop aesthetic skills of prospective TRS. I don't know what TRS.
Okay, that might be
TRS through art education.
Okay, so when you say they develop aesthetical sense, you can even in bracket what are the skills that you can represent, or even you can represent those skills through the course outcomes. So there can be some flexibility in program specific outcomes where you may not be explicitly telling this is the action, but they tell overall the combined effect of all the courses. So develop aesthetical skills are also fine for a program outcome.
Dr. Mini KD,
but when you come to the one aspect, when you come to the courses, please tell specifically what are those aesthetical sense and how do you measure those aesthetical sense. That is the job of a teacher who teaches that course, to tell explicitly.
Okay. Dr. Mini KD, zoology program. Through covering the topics in applied zoology, students will become well versed in aquarium management, fish culture, etc.
Okay, so develop management skill for these things. That can be program specific outcome.
Smita Joseph, BSc Physics. PSO is developed expertise in operating electrical instruments.
Fine.
Shruti Francis, PSO for UG English. Identify the links between language, history, and culture.
Analyze.
PSO for UG English, undergraduate program in English.
Yeah.
Identify the links between language, history, and culture.
Yeah. Because there will be several courses which may be catering to this particular program specific outcome. So that's a
Next
good
one.
PSO.
Gia Paul. To be a good microbiologist with knowledge in every relevant fields.
It's always better to avoid relativistic terms like good, bad. We don't know. So let us look at the actions that you are expecting them to do. That is a better way of communicating the expectation. So I think
Vijay Kumar.
Wind up, we'll take one or two.
Okay, Vijay Kumar V. One BCom student, after completing the course, he should be able to do the practical accounting by incorporating all the needs of corporates. Is this PSO or CO?
So develop accounting abilities for a variety of needs, variety of corporate needs. So it's not just one specific corporate needs, maybe multiple way of applying these skills, and these multiple skills are getting acquainted by different courses. So why there are different courses? Because each course is actually catering to one of these skills. So your program specific outcome is achieved by several courses. That is the idea. One more, last one.
BSc Zoology, better exposure to living things and interaction with environment.
Can still work on that. Better exposure is not an actionable or not a skill that is not very clear when I look at it. Probably you can still work on what kind of action that you're expecting when you say better exposure.
One more is, I think it's relevant. BA English, Dr. Neenamol Sebastian. Critically analyze a piece of literary work in the light of a particular literary theory.
That can be one program outcome. Because that is there are several literature work, and there are several courses for prose, poetry, drama, and everywhere probably this is what teachers are expecting them to do. So a culmination of this can appear as a program specific outcome. I will also show one example now. We'll go back to the slide and then we'll see one. So suppose PSO for a undergraduate program is in electrical engineering can be use the techniques, skills and modern engineering tools necessary for electric engineering practice. So here they are using these skills, using these engineering tools necessary for this particular branch. So the branch is mentioned, that is why it's becoming specific. What they do is also mentioned. They are using these techniques, skills and tools for a electrical engineering practice. So this is slightly broad, but please remember this is a result of several courses that you are offering in this undergraduate program. As a result, what skill are you required? So you need to design the program specific outcome which represents the outcomes of several courses. So you need to use a language which again describes some actionable terms from the student, but more importantly, it should encompass all the things that they acquire through different courses. So unless you are aware of several courses in a program, you may not be in a position to write PSO. This is one important. You should be aware about the course outcomes of all the courses. Okay. Now we are going to the calculation part, which is going to be slightly boring in the sense it is highly technical, but you don't have a choice. You need to do this. when you go for accreditation, this is what you are supposed to do. Another problem is I am presenting one model. There can be different models. So flexibility is there, but the essence of attainment calculation is given in this slide. As I said yesterday, in OBE, first thing is you predict an outcome. Then use your strategies, because outcome will also enable you to see what kind of teaching strategy you need to adopt. Use that strategy, do the teaching learning process, assess the outcome. So you have a predicted outcome, actual outcome. Take the ratio, convert into a final attainment. So this is the exercise that you need to do. But the statistical tools that you need to use, you have the flexibility to select. There are various models available. That is the advantage of this one. But this is what you are supposed to do. Predict, do the actual thing, compare it. And the important thing is, when your prediction is very high, achievement is not that high. When the gap between aspiration and achievement is very large, you need to worry, because there is something somewhere, something is going on wrong. That is a idea that we learn. So how to make that gap between aspiration and achievement? That is the idea of this attainment calculation. I will take maybe 2 minutes because there are so many things in this slide. This is about calculating course outcome attainment. Remember, you do the same exercise as a prediction and as an actual thing. This is for one particular course called CYXXX. There are 5 outcomes, as you can see: CO1, CO2, CO3, CO4, CO5. In the table, you see some numbers 1, 3, etc. Will tell you what it is. Above the table, the assessment plans are given. There is a quiz 1, there is a quiz 2, there is a project, there is an end semester examination. There is these are all done by the individual college, and finally there is a test by university. If this is the situation in your college, if this is not the situation, don't take this model. Okay, so but you can prepare another model similar to this. Essentially, you are telling how you are assessing these individual course outcomes. When you assess this, obviously the assessment is basically by test paper only. You give questions, and then for CO1 probably there will be 5 questions, and CO2 there will be 5 questions or 10 questions. You distribute the questions. How many questions is up to you. You can select a reasonable number of questions, depends upon the duration of the exam. And each question you can say this is question for CO1, this is question for CO2, etc. And they write the question and they get the mark. Ideally for one CO1, all the questions for CO1 should carry identical marks, because the cognitive load is same. So when you say CO1, suppose I have 5 questions, I should say each of these questions carries same mark. For simplicity, I am saying 5 questions, each question carries 1 mark. Okay. Now, I have 100 students. Just assume that in the class. I am asking 5 questions for CO1. Suppose out of these 100 questions, 100 students, 50 students get 2.5 marks for CO1. How many was the total mark? 5 mark, because 5 questions were there, each question carries 1 mark, total mark was 5. If 50 students obtain about 2.5 mark, then I would suggest that is a low attainment for that course outcome 1. See that blue ink on the left side? That is what I am trying to describe. 50% of your students getting above 50% of the course outcome. If all the students get complete 5 mark, that is a different, that's a high level attainment. But here I am saying above 50% of the students are attaining about 2.5 mark, 50% of the outcome. Then I would say, I would remark or I would consider it as a low attainment. 60%, suppose 60% of the students, that means out of 100 students, 60 students reach about 2.5 mark. Then I would say it's a medium attainment. Now 70 students attain above 2.5 mark, then I would say it's a high attainment. That is the way I classify low, medium, high in this model. Now if you don't like this model, rearrange the numbers for low, medium, high. But the important thing is you should have a criteria for saying low, medium, high attainment and put some numbers representing that. Now, when I say CO1 1 for quiz 1, which means that in quiz 1, the total number of questions representing CO1, 50% of the students got above 50% of the mark. That's what 1 means. Now, project, I am putting 3 for CO1. That means high attainment. 70 students out of 100, they got about 2.5 mark for that. So like that, we need to take the average for all the assessment plan in the internal. So 133, the internal average mark is 2.33. In every column of internal and university, you take again average. These are the internal average attainment for assessment internally as well as university, 2.87 and 3. You can provide weightage factors. Internal weightage factor can be 20%, external can be 80. These are all depending upon the university rules, regulations, etc. I'm just representing a model. Now the attainment of 2.87 convert 20%, the other 80%, sum it up. That is a final CO attainment for the subject, 2.97. So you basically quantify the attainment. So this is an exercise to quantify the attainment in a particular course called CYXXX. Remember, you have to do this for every courses. First you predict this, then you do the test and then actually see what is attainment. Now it is not over. This is for one individual course. Another exercise that you need to do in accreditation business is called COPO alignment. You have several program outcomes. The 12 graduate attributes plus your PSO1, PSO2, PSO3. So all these POs you need to put on the x-axis. Y-axis, put your outcomes. Select one course. Okay. So CYXXXX, that is a course, 5 outcomes. Now you need to do this COPO alignment by again giving numbers 1, 2, 3. What represent 1 represent what? There is very poor correlation. You can see the below on the table. 1 represent very poor correlation between your course outcome and the program outcome. There can be some cases where some program outcome, there is no one-on-one alignment. There may be poor correlation. 2 means medium correlation. Your course outcome is medium correlation with the program outcome. 3 means well correlated, well aligned with the program outcome. For example, CO1, PO1, the box contains 3. What does it mean? Course outcome 1 is directly connected or serving the students or helping the students to achieve program outcome 1. Program outcome 1 can be develop in-depth knowledge. Or so then your course outcome may be analyze these things in a particular subject. So it's a direct correlation. Analysis skills, develop in-depth knowledge. So that is correlated, well correlated. But look at PO4 and CO1. It is 1. So why I write 1 is it can be PO4 is develop ethical attitude or ethical sense in students. Now you are teaching a science course. Directly there is no connection between when you teach a science course and ethics, but there is some line of connection. For example, you come to the class on time. Some ethics are taught indirectly. You insist that students should come on time. You insist some behavioral aspect. You don't allow them to cheat in the exam. So all these things, irrespective of whether you teach science or economics or literature, there are some ethical practices that you are trying to incorporate, not directly but indirectly. So that correlation is 1. Look at PO6 and CO1, it is 2. What does it mean? Medium correlation. For example, PO6 can be develop communication abilities. In your course, you may not be doing anything directly for communication ability, but you may ask them to present a paper. So that means they're developing communication abilities. So some feedback from the teacher or the other students will help them to develop communication ability. So these are all medium correlation. So you need to analyze your course outcomes as a well alignment, medium alignment, or poor alignment with the program outcomes. And in each column, PO1, PO2, PO3, for every program outcomes, you take the average, how these alignments are happening. between CO and PO. This exercise is called CO-PO alignment. Once you do this and the one that we described previously, course attainment, next one is calculation of PO attainment. There are two ways of PO attainment. One is called direct method, other one is called indirect method. This slide represents direct method. The equation is average of COs of a PO divided by maximum attainment of that PO into final CO attainment for the subject. Let us see how we can use this equation. If you want to calculate the PO attainment value for PO1 in the above table, go back to the table. PO1, take the first column. The average value is 3. So average value of COs of a PO, that's going to be 3 divided by 3, that is the maximum alignment. 3 by 3 into final CO attainment for the subject. If you remember 2 slides back, this is the final CO attainment, that was 2.97. You multiply by that, and this is what your final PO attainment for that particular program outcome called PO1. Now you have to do this exercise for all the POs and PSOs. So using this CO-PO alignment, you calculate the PO attainment by direct method. There is one more method called indirect method of PO attainment, usually done by survey. You need to do a questionnaire, make a questionnaire, give it to passed out students, alumni, industry people, parents, all the stakeholders, and again converted their response to numbers 1, 2, 3. What is 1? It's a low attainment. If 60% of the people are telling the program outcomes are excellent, suppose 70 people are telling the program outcomes are excellent, you give a medium attainment. 80% people are giving excellent remark, okay, you said it's a high attainment. So put that way, 1, 2, 3, again take the same average of this attainment. That is an indirect way of calculating PO attainment. And once we have direct and indirect way of PO attainment, the final PO attainment is essentially a comprise the direct and indirect method. You have to provide some weightage. Direct method weightage is 80%, indirect weightage method can be 20. So 2.97, which is the direct PO attainment, into 80 plus 1 was the indirect attainment into 0.2, total you get. Now the final PO attainment is the calculated one and the expected one, convert into percentage, and you will get some number, some 86% of attainment. So this is the overall exercise that we need to do the PO attainment calculation. It is laborious, it is tedious. You have to go by course, each student's individual mark, convert them to CO attainment, and then calculate the PO attainment. But luckily there are several models available. Some committee has to sit and really sweat it out. I am sure that by this slides presentation, you may get only an overall idea. The details, you need to really work it out. The advantage for you is that there are several models available. So summarizing, outcome should be designed for a course and a program. And when I say a course and a program, that is the beginning. You have to extend this for all the courses and all the programs. Attainment calculation of outcome is an iterative process. That means predict an outcome, find out actual, compare them, and calculate final. Now suppose you get 56%, for example. That means there is a lot of scope for improvement. So do the things again. Do some measures to address the shortcomings. Do the again. So it's an iterative process. When you do the next time, see 56 is going to 64. And see whether you can improve and reach maximum values. That is the idea of this accreditation. And now your teaching approaches change after you start incorporating. So this aspect I am putting as a summary line, because in the next class, when we see day after tomorrow, I think we are going to discuss about what can be the strategy as a teacher to enable the students to achieve these outcomes. Otherwise, see, unfortunately, since accreditation started in our country, teachers are more focused on making this attainment on paper. It's a sad state of affairs. You can have statistical model and you can prepare everything on paper, but unless you do the last thing that is in the summary slide, actual attainment is not possible. So it is very important for a teacher training program that as a teacher, how you can actually inculcate these abilities in another person through your teaching. So we'll discuss those things in the next class. We'll stop now, and we are going to the chat box. This attainment calculation part, if you have questions, we can address. We have 11:29 now. Since we started 5 minutes back, we have 5 more minutes to wind up. Or any other general questions about outcome design? Okay. How can the CEOs, PSOs and POs can be designed which will increase the employability skills? How can the CEOs, PSOs and POs be designed which will increase the employability of the skills? Well, I mean, if you are looking for employability aspects, probably the first thing that you need to do is you need to have a discussion with the stakeholder, the employers, so the employee. What kind of employer, what kind of jobs, prospective jobs are available for this program, and they will tell you the kind of skills that they are looking for. Now, the problem with such kind of an approach in an educational institute is the companies change their requirements very drastically. So it may not be practically, you may run into some problems. How do we cater to that kind of situations for semester after semester? But there are some established kind of jobs, skill sets are known. So then it is easy. You know the skill sets, you see what kind of skill sets are required, and to develop those skills, what kind of course you need to design and what kind of course outcomes you need to design. So do a reverse engineering approach. First you see what kind of skills are required. And once you have that information, you can do the reverse track. Another question, Biju Thomas is asking, is Manju there to read the question? Okay, I will try to read
Yes,
it.
sir.
How,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Dr. Asha Thomas, sir, how can we link student placements to program attainment outcomes?
Student placement, if you want to put it as a, so that you can put in the indirect method. For example, that survey part we mentioned, you can do a survey in the placement office or with the companies, take feedback from them, or even take feedback from the students about placement. So the survey questions, you can incorporate the placement aspects.
Sarita K. Nair, in the attainment calculation, can we take the internal marks, which includes test, assignments and attendance, on as a single item, or take the average of each?
So internal marks, it is all depends upon the weightage factor. So generally we give very low weightage for the internal. Compared to the external, if you keep the weightage of the internal mark less, you can combine it and then do it. The weightage factor should not be predominant. That is the idea, because it is internal.
Many are asking to share your slides. It's for you to answer, sir.
Sorry?
Many participants are asking for the slides.
So we'll go back to the slides, or I will be sharing the slides with the coordinators. You can send the slides, but if you want to have questions based on the slides, that is what you are mentioning?
No, I think they want to have the slides shared with them.
Right now or later?
I don't know. Miss Sarita K. Nair, please.
I will be sending the slides.
No. It is K. Manjusha, Dr. K. Manjusha. Sir, would you be kind enough to share the slides on calculating PO attainment, direct and indirect?
Yeah, my question is whether is it now or is that the question?
Sir, later, sir.
Yeah, obviously I will be sending you. But please remember, this is one model. There are other statistical models.
So
Okay,
these models are purchasable or we have to design it institution?
I have seen firms coming forward to help you. They develop a software. Ideally, you can do in Excel, but if the things becoming overwhelming for an institution, they can approach for. There are agencies who does that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. And only one more is there comment. Research or internship? Neeraja James. The research or internship which highly connected with PSO?
Okay. Question. What is the question?
Only this much, sir. Neeraja James says research or internship which is highly connected with PSO.
Which is connected.
It
So
is not
research,
there.
when we say research, see, all these things are, please understand, these are for course-based education. So here we are not actually discussing about the research aspects. This is mostly for course-based education. Research is slightly different from course-based education.
Excuse me, sir. Can I ask you the question? Like, I ask you after the course because in the final year, we have to write research. We have to do a research. So whether we go for an internship or research, which would be better to attend this PSO? Not the research in the higher level, sir.
So
like PhD or MPhil. Research after the course, because in the final year, we have to write that research, right? In third year and in BA also, we have to do the research. Research in the sense, in the final year research.
So I understand that there can be a project and you need to write.
Yeah, it's a project. It's a project.
You need to write a dissertation. You need to write a thesis.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what is the question? So,
what would be the best connected one with the program specific objective?
So when we ask these questions, please remember that your program specific outcomes, whether it is well connected with the dissertation or the internship. Is that the question?
Yes, sir. Yes, yeah.
So that can be only answered when I have the information about what are the program specific outcomes that you have designed and what we are doing in your dissertation and internship. The connection comes only when the details are presented.
Okay, sir. Okay.
When what are you doing in the research and what you do as an internship going elsewhere and do. If you can tell me, I mean, not now, later when you can communicate to me, then we can correlate which one is having more correlation. You can also do the exercise.
Okay, sure. Okay, sir.
There is no fixed alignment. That's what I'm saying. Or a priori alignment. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
So now it is 11:35. Time is over technically. Coordinators can decide the procedure.
Is there any more questions? I think we can stop it now.
Yeah.
So please, Prasad sir.
If they have questions, please provide my email ID. They can contact me directly.
Yeah. Okay, you have one more session tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So after that, I will post your email ID and they can.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. And
thank you.
So Sri Prasad sir from IQAC Sri Shankar. You are mute, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Manju. Am I audible?
Yes.
Hello. Okay.
Yes.
Good afternoon, and all. Respected Professor Edamana Prasad, the presentation of the session, and all the participants who are attending the session. Myself, Prasad of the Department of Economics, Sri Shankara College. I'm sure that everybody is edified with a very comprehensive understanding on certain important aspects of hobby or outcome-based education. Yesterday in the session, he particularly focused in cognitive domain. Today in the session, he specifically explained about the outcome design and how you exactly determine or distinguish or understand learning outcome, course outcome, program outcome, etc. The session was very live and was enriched with fruitful discussion. On behalf of the HVAC Srichandra College and everybody who are attending the session, I sincerely thank Professor Edamana Prasad for his well-versed deliberation. Thank you one and all for the active participation. See you all on this platform for the second session of the day of this FTP program at 2 p.m. All